It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Merrimack College head women's ice hockey coach, Coach Erin Hamlen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's ice hockey?
Well, it's funny. I never really wanted to be a coach, to be honest. I wanted to be a player for my entire life, but obviously, at some point, you transition from the non-playing days or the playing days to the non-playing days. I ended up getting into coaching, kind of falling into it. It was something that my alma mater, University of New Hampshire, needed a coach, and I happened to be still playing with the national team at the time. And so it was a part-time position. So I was able to do that and still play with the national team and got my feet wet and really truly loved the impact that I could make on players. So it stuck for a while and I got in and out of it and then back in for good.
Of course, what was that experience like competing in college at UNE?
Competing when I was at University of New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. It was different then than it was now. Now there are so many more teams, and geographically we're spread out across the United States, where before there were really only a few teams that were the top teams. So playing for a team that was in the top level with University of New Hampshire and then Northeastern and Providence were our main competitors, and so it was awesome. Won a couple championships, which was great. Came in runner up a couple times, which was not so great, but still good. And loved my experience there. Truly had a phenomenal experience both on and off the ice.
What was that feeling like putting on the New Hampshire jersey?
It was, unique. I played boys hockey all the way up. So that was actually the first women's team that I played with. So to be transitioning from high school and youth hockey with boys to the women's college game, it wasn't like you always dreamed about going to a certain college, and playing hockey when we were little. It just wasn't the thing quite as much. And now it's become more of a, commonplace to think, oh, I want to go here someday. And it's more mainstream and more oriented toward the media. So there's a lot more knowledge now than there was then. And for me, it was just playing hockey again. But I loved UNH and I loved my ability to wear the jersey proudly.
Of course, as a player, what was that experience like competing for two national championships for UNH?
It was a really cool experience. Of course, again, it was a little smaller scale than it is today. We didn't have the red carpet through, up to the arena. We didn't have the same number of fans. We probably had about 100 to 200 family and friends that were watching us as opposed to a couple thousand. So, it was a unique experience to share with family, friends, and our teammates. And I don't think it took anything away from it, but it's definitely a little bit different today than it was then.
For you, what was that feeling like getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
So the UNH Hall of Fame was special. That's something that, you always think about what you want to contribute. I think from my perspective, I was one person out of so many who could have been inducted that year and many years. I just kind of did my thing. I played hockey. I put my head down and just wanted to be the best that I could be on the ice and off the ice. So I think it was special because it was UNH, but it was also special because there were so many people around me that sacrificed so much to help me get to where I was.
After college, what was that experience like going to play professionally for teams like Dallas Freeze and the national team?
So very different experiences. The USA Hockey, the ability to play for Team USA and have that experience was pretty amazing. I started that when I was in my college years and continued obviously well beyond, and had so many incredible experiences all over the world, traveling and playing for Team USA. from a perspective of the pro game, it was my way of staying involved in hockey, right? And at the time, we didn't have the PWHL, we didn't have women's pro hockey the way it is today. So we either had to kind of go play shinny or men's league, or get together with our buddies and try to get on the ice, or find a different avenue. And for me as a goalie, I was very fortunate to be able to transition from the college days right to men's professional hockey. I was timing, right time, right place, with my hometown being the home of Adirondack Red Wings at the time, which was in the American Hockey League, and had an ability to be seen there, and in a camp in the summer, and that transitioned and was a springboard to my short career in the pros. So I'm grateful that I was in the right place at the right time. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity and some good people who looked after me to get me those opportunities to play pro.
For you, what was that feeling like putting on that jersey with Team USA and representing the US?
Uh, I mean, special, when you play for your country, there's something completely different than when you play for anybody else. Not to take away from any of the other teams I played for, but playing for Team USA, it was one of those things that you had always seen, everybody has seen Miracle, right? And in 1980, when I was, a little kid, and I was cheering for Team USA, then, I don't know that I ever knew that I would be in a position to put on that jersey. And I think everybody, the first time they put that on, is kind of in awe, and feels a little bit um, like they have to represent, and they're grateful to represent. So for me, I was just very grateful and happy that I reached, that point in my career where I could represent Team USA and represent our country, and do it with a bunch of people who I consider my family.
After retiring from hockey, what was it like getting into coaching and going first to your alma mater to become assistant coach?
Right. As I said, I did it as I was still playing. So it was kind of a unique experience where I was able to still play hockey and transition into coaching. For me, I think I still think I think I thought I was still one of the players at times. And as a young coach, you go through those transitions, and it was really a special experience. I'm still very close with a lot of those players that I coached in those early days. I'll see a few of them this weekend at the Frozen Four. And so it's something that I will say just kind of brought out the best in me. It made me realize what I really wanted to do in life, and just be a part of people's lives, and be a part of an experience to develop and make people better. And so I think it was a unique experience to be in my alma mater and do that at the same time.
What was that like getting to compete for a Hockey East at UNH as assistant coach?
It was a very incredible experience. I mean, we had a staff that all throughout my time at University of New Hampshire, I truly loved everybody I worked with. And when you work with people on a day-to-day basis, they become your family and your second family. And so to win with people that really helped me develop as a coach. They helped me grow as a person. That was a really cool experience, and then to do that with a group of young women who push themselves every day to be their best, and to do everything that they could to win hockey games for themselves, for each other, and for our team. So we always say it was for the greater good. You are always wanting to win for yourself, but you're always wanting to really succeed and help your teammates succeed.
How was that experience like for you getting to coach on the US national team as assistant coach?
A very unexpected, I think, experience for me when I first got into coaching. Again, I wasn't sure that's the direction I wanted to go. And when I was asked to coach with the U18 team and with Team USA, it gave me an opportunity to work with some of the best people and coach at a level where there was this level of professionalism that I kind of didn't know there was in women's college or women's hockey at the time. And so it was a chance to learn from some of the best. I coached with Mark Johnson, I coached with Katie Stone, assistant coaches of Bob Duraney and Hillary Witt, who's now been successful at UNH. And so it was great to coach with some people who I could grow with, but at the same time work with these athletes, that they were these high level athletes who just had a different level of wanting to push themselves to be better. You know, the Hillary Knights of the world, the Brianna Deckers, these people just had innately this ability to push themselves and want to be better and want to succeed. And so, you know, it was almost easy to coach them. You know, they didn't have to be pushed that much internally. They were just driven.
What was that experience like, as you said, getting to coach those Hillary Knights, those Brianna Deckers?
Again, like they're just such driven people. I think when you coach at the national team level, it's different, right? College level players are 18 to 22-year-olds, right? They're younger, they're developing, they're still trying to figure out their path. And at the same time, it's a very different structured environment. They're not playing in a tournament style where they're just gearing up for the next tournament. They're playing a full season.
What was that experience like for you going to the Boston Blaze and becoming the first head coach in their history of being a head coach?
So it was a very, I'm sorry, Brendan, I lost your feed. So you can still hear me though?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So coaching with the Boston Blades was something that almost fell in my lap. It was an opportunity to coach again at the professional level, to be able to do what I needed to do to help build a program and help contribute in any way I could. The unique experience with that level was that, you know, kind of like the national team, you were just coaching. I didn't need to recruit. I didn't need to be in a situation where it was you know, a need to go on the road and develop these young players. It was just about getting on the ice and coaching with them. And so it gave me an opportunity to just do that. And that was one of the coolest experiences ever.
While head coach for the Boston Blaze, what were some of your biggest accomplishments?
Um, you know, it was such a short time. I would say that it was just building that program and getting the name brand out there and being able to have these players understand that they were part of something that was going to be bigger. Because it was in the early days of the CWHL, it gave us an opportunity to really showcase the women's game at a high level to fans, and so gave us also an opportunity to be in the limelight a little bit, and that was great for our players.
How did you take what you learned as a professional athlete and as a head coach on the professional level over to coming to Merrimack and becoming their head coach?
I think I grew and I learned with every coach that I coached with. So in other words, you know, with Brian McCloskey at University of New Hampshire, I took so much of the X's and O's and the things that he could teach, and he was such a good teacher, and gave me an opportunity to learn how to coach the logistics, the X's and O's piece. You know, from Mark Johnson, he was such a seasoned coach, and so the ability to have somebody who had been through so much, both as a player and a coach, that you could just see the maturity in him and the ability to just command a group without having too much of a loud voice. He was respected and understood as somebody who just was such a person of high knowledge of the game that you just kind of wanted to learn and be a sponge around him. So all of these people that I learned from just kind of all came together to help me, you know, become a better coach at Merrimack. It was something that took me a long time as a young coach to figure out my way and who I was, and think I'm still learning sometimes. But it gives me an opportunity to learn, you know, what works and what doesn't work, and just be learn my own command and figure out how to manage a program with my own values and standards.
What is that experience like getting to build your own team and the coaching staff around you at Merrimack?
It was long and arduous and challenging and wonderful all at the same time. I had some great people working with me, and we worked very hard to put the team together from the start. And you know, no matter what, building a team is something that, you know, once you go through that experience, it really is something that nothing else can compare to. I think I'm proud of what we've done and what we built. within the first 4 years of the program, we had some pretty good success, and that I'm very proud of. And I think now we've just grown almost 4 years later to the next steps of the program, which is getting into an established program mode. So the hard process that you go through and all the turmoil and all the things that can go wrong with building a program, I'm proud of how we did it, and I'm of course always regretful of some things that I probably should have done differently, but that's kind of life when you build a business.
What have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far?
As I mentioned, I think, within 4 years of our program, we were middle of the pack in the Hockey East, and we had ability to be in a situation where we're playing in a playoff game, against Providence that could have gone either way, and we lost those games, but it was still an opportunity for the program to showcase and be successful. I think when we went out and beat Minnesota, who was number one in the country, top ranked at the time, it was kind of the underdog scenario, and I'm proud of the team pulling together to pull together a weekend in Minnesota where we could accomplish some great things. Going to Quinnipiac and winning our first tournament, which was a nutmeg tournament. Again, it was a lot about the team pulling together. I think overarching, kind of the bigger picture is, I think going through this process, not only learning about myself, but learning how to build leaders and coach players differently along the way and understand personalities, and just hope that, I'm making an impact on lives. And I think that's what I'm probably most proud of, is some of the relationships I've built and some of the impact that I've had. That's kind of, again, why I got into this business in the first place.
As a head coach, what was that feeling like stepping onto the Merrimack ice rink for the first time?
Um, Scary, nerve-wracking. There were a lot of emotions, I think, with our first practice. It was doubt sometimes. How do I do this? Can I do this? But I had a great team around me, and we had a great plan in place. And I think just understanding that, you rely on the people around you to help you build successful programs. And that's what we did. So we as a coaching staff, we as a team helped to build these programs. So I think the feeling in the end, was, just happiness that we could put the group together after 2 years of really kind of working hard to get a group. And just the ability to really feel good about the group that we had, and know that we could grow together.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you built for Merrimack College's women's ice hockey?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Mhm. Can you talk about the culture that you built for the program?
Right. So, most of our values, when we talk about our values of our program, one of those values is compete. And to me, compete and hard work are similar. They're not the same, but I would say the foundation of our program has always been our work ethic. We've always had players who come in, and their job is to work as hard as they can to make the program successful, to make their teammates successful. And so from a cultural perspective, I think development is one, walking in and understanding that there's a level of development that's going to be an expectation, but also an opportunity for players. And then I think the biggest piece is that work ethic piece, is the expectation that you're going to work, and that it's going to be an enjoyable work, because it's something that you do as a group, and you do it together, and you go through the highs and lows. And then there's the fun. We're playing a game, we're playing hockey. And so if we bring compete and enjoyment and work and development, all of those things mixed together, are really a recipe for success in the end.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
Well, we're in Hockey East, so Northeastern, Providence, Boston College, Boston University, Connecticut, University of New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont. um, Yeah, so I mean, we're mixed up against some of the best teams in the country, right? And so it's a tough league. I think this past year, especially, it was a unique experience, because everybody, people weren't separated by a ton. So it was a really cool league this year to be a part of, where anybody could be at the top and anybody could win any given night. And it was an exciting league. So that's who we compete against. Geographically, it's more in the New England area. And then we have the outliers, obviously, in the non-league games that we play. So we'll travel and go play some non-league games.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Boston comes to home versus going to Maine?
Well, it's funny because Maine has a really good, pretty solid crowd. They have the Alfond, which is a great arena an old barn. So they bring their own, I guess, emphasis on their fans. For us, we've had some great experiences, especially with the youth and families to bring people in on, say, Friday nights and get the youth teams in and do some work with getting people in the stands who are very familiar with Andover and North Andover, but also familiar with what Merrimack hockey has grown to be and what it's going to be in the future. So, we have a good crowd. We would always love to have a better crowd. And I think getting into the community and into the environment that, of the town and the area will help us to grow a little bit more.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
Obviously, there's a skill set that has to be a base level skill set, and everybody looks for something different. From my perspective, being able to handle pucks, being able to make clean passes, have grit, obviously the skating style and being able to skate and move at the Division I level is critical. Obviously, we always look for goal scoring. That's a premium, and that's sometimes harder to find, but looking for those players that can put the puck in the net. And then from a defensive perspective, some vision, being able to see the ice well. Those are all things that I think most coaches look for. For me, specific to Merrimack, one of the other things that we really look for is the physicality of the player. Can they handle the physical play? Are they going to be able to once they get a little bit stronger? Are they gritty? Are they hard? Do they have an element that of compete that will match our standards? And those pieces on top of all those skill development pieces or all those skill pieces are important to us.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that Merrimack jersey for the first time?
It's funny. I've done it for now so many years that I think it gets lost on me, and it's probably more special for them than it is for me. But I do know that when we do media day and when it's the first game, it is very special for them, and it reminds me of the cycle. I mean, every 4 years, another senior graduates and another freshman comes in every year, and so it's fun to see them realize, hey, I'm really playing Division I hockey, and everything I've worked for has led to this point. And there's kind of they're proud of themselves, they're proud of what they've accomplished. And I think that's as a parent and a coach, something that always warms my heart is to see people really feel good about what they've accomplished and what they've done.
What is it like seeing your players achieve those first milestones like first goals, first assists?
Yeah, sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it comes a little easier. For me, like I said, I love to develop relationships with my players. So when those players achieve something that they've worked for and to see the smiles on their faces, whether it's a first goal, it's a first shutout, anything, it just makes me feel proud. I know that they've worked very hard for it, even if it's not just that, leading up to that point, but you think about their 15 years or 18 years prior to when they arrive at campus. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of long hours of putting in that work. So I think it just makes me proud more than anything else.
What is it like getting to see those seniors put on that jersey for the last time and achieve those last milestones in their career?
Yeah, being a senior is unique, right? It's something that I think most players it sneaks up on. And when they start to realize that they're into their senior year, they realize that every day counts. And to me, it's exciting because it's usually their biggest push. It's usually the time where they say, okay, like let's rally together and let's get this team going, and it's up to us to make sure that we push everybody else along and have them understand. And nobody realizes it until they get to that senior year. And I think for me, the players when they hit that mark, they start to communicate more with me. They're in my office more. They have more experiences with each other talking about how to win, and they become more like a second coach, and or a third coach or a fourth coach. And so they really kind of take the reins a little bit more, and they take ownership a little bit more, and I love that. It makes me happy. But I think that there's a little bit of a bittersweet moment, right, in all of it, because you know that this is it for them. And so as much as they want to make every moment count, eventually the time runs out, and you want that to be the best experience for them.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players go on and play in the PLH and get to experience professional hockey like you have?
Really, really cool experience. The way the PWHL is now structured and what they've done to restructure, we've had players in the pro league prior to this year, and this year with the crowds and just the hype around it, it really is truly, it's become way more of a mainstream, professional league that's appealing to the mass audience. And I think this is something that's been a growth aspect of the women's game that I think hopefully nobody will turn back from. To see my own players in it, it's again, I'll go back to the word proud. I'm so proud of what they accomplished, because I know their dreams go beyond Merrimack, and I hope they do. I always tell recruits when they come in, I hope this isn't your last stop. I hope that this isn't what you want to do and that's the end. I hope you go on from here and you achieve the next step, whether it's with your national team or anything else. But I think just being proud of them, their experience, trying to help them as best as I can to reach that goal, and then at the same time, if they need help along the way or they need conversation along the way about, how they're doing while they're at these PWHL teams, I'm happy to have that communication too.
What are some of your future plans for Merrimack's women's ice hockey program moving forward?
So Merrimack is funny. It's a program that, again, we're trying still to go through an established element here. We're going into year 10, and future goals. I've always said, I truly believe this team can win a championship. I believed it this past year, and we fell short, and we certainly had work to do. In the end, my goal is to develop the best athletes at Merrimack. I'd love to have more players that come from both a national team background, but also can achieve that goal along the way, whether it's the national team or the Olympics. Um, I'm trying to obviously develop a program that has more sustained success rather than sporadic success, and that's my goal. Ultimately, in the end, every coach wants to win a championship, and every coach wants to develop athletes to have the best experience that they can. So that's really my goal.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of college women's ice hockey?
Be patient. Um, for some, it comes quicker. I think most of these athletes are one of the best, if not the best, from wherever they came from, and they're not necessarily always used to hitting adversity and running into that. And I think most athletes don't know how to handle it right away. Their confidence takes a dip, and they don't trust themselves anymore. They don't trust the surroundings. It's different. So there are a lot of things they have to be patient about. I always tell my incoming freshmen, it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. You're not always going to have good days. It's going to be grueling. It's going to be hard, but embrace the hard. Be excited about the growth that you're going to have. Have an understanding that you can lean on your teammates, you can lean on your coaches, and you can have conversations that are deeper conversations than I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, because they all kind of want to brush it off a little bit and say, yeah, I'm going to be okay. I think it's a great opportunity for freshmen to understand that it's about growth, and sometimes it's two steps forward, one step back, and that's just the way life is going to go freshman year. And that's once you have that understanding, you get that, the little progress that you make along the way, you want to celebrate those successes, and then be able to kind of achieve the next step after that and be more consistent.
What advice would you give those players looking to play professionally, whether it's for a national team or for the PHF?
I think again, it starts with the growth along the way in the college level. It doesn't happen overnight. So the players who really put the work in, the players who go out and do the skill sessions, who watch the video, who put themselves in a position every day for their 4 years to have consistent development and growth, they might not be a player who coming in is projected to be one of those draft picks or somebody who maybe, is even going to be the top of Division I hockey. But by the end of their 4 years, I'm a firm believer that the work that you put in can get you closer, if not there, depending on how much you're willing to do along the way. So, what I would say is it doesn't just start with that senior year. It's what you do leading up for those 4 years and what you do in your youth years to lead you to that next step of development. The work ethic piece has to be there. Being able to commit to your development and your own version of what it's going to take to get you into a successful place is really critical. So, and then once you get to that point where it's your senior year and you're making that decision and you have an opportunity, then it's about putting yourself out there and opening up the door to multiple opportunities. Maybe it's, that you need another year of development and you want to put yourself in a position that gives you that year of playing in a different league or in a European league, and maybe that gives you an opportunity. Maybe it's that you just put yourself out there in terms of that senior year and you make the calls and you be proactive and you try to get yourself to a point where you can achieve success with that, your current team, and that gets you noticed and gets you in the door.
What advice would you give those athletes out there looking to play on the national team like you did and represent their country?
You got to work for it. I mean, I was probably one of the hardest workers. Well, it's hard to say, that I know, but I worked. I worked every day. I was always the first on the ice if I could be. I was always the last off the ice if I could be. I always put in the time, in terms of developing my skill, and I loved to compete. And I wasn't afraid to, I guess, push the limits no matter what. So in other words, if somebody wanted to beat me and, I thought that they were going to be angry if they lost, I would still want to beat them and I'd still try to beat them. And to me, that was about competing at the highest level all the time, no matter what other people thought of me or no matter what other people set in terms of limits. I set my own limits, which weren't there. I was, limitless in a sense. And I think because I was that and because I was bold and because I tried things that maybe I was told I couldn't do, I succeeded. And I think if players set their own limits or have somebody tell them that they can't do something, they're never going to reach their potential. So don't let that happen.
What advice would you give those players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
Um, don't think that you're going to be an assistant or a Division I coach right away. Like just get your feet wet, do the little things, go to the USA Hockey development camps and be an intern, ask people to be a volunteer, go and get the experience at the lower levels. Learn, be a sponge, do all these things that put you in a situation where you get to network and develop with people. The biggest reason why people get jobs is because they network, and in all fields, right? You have to be qualified, but you also have to know people. And the more you work toward being a better coach when you're younger, whether it's just learning from somebody, whether it's experiencing it as a volunteer, and the less expectations you have about getting something back for it, the more you're going to build your resume and the more relationships you're going to build, and that's going to get you in the door. So, don't expect return for what you're trying to learn to be a coach at the next level. Just learn and it'll come.
What advice would you give those head coaches out there looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Um, Expect it to be very hard. Expect it not to happen overnight. Expect it to be something where you have to have preparation and a plan in place. Learn from other people. Ask what other people did. Learn from their mistakes. Learn from their successes. Very much it's about there have been so many programs out there that have started, and some have started well, some have been rocky. including, mine's been both, right? And I think in the end, when you want to make your mark on something and you want to start a program, you have to learn there's a blueprint somewhere, and it may not be perfect, but try to find the best blueprint for you and your own personality and the way you want to do it, and then have conviction and confidence to run your own plan, and then surround yourself with great people. Probably the most critical is the last. Surround yourself with really great people, people who want what you want, who have the ability to see beyond just what's in front of them, who genuinely care. And once you do that, you put yourself in a really good situation for building a program.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Merrimack College Women's Ice Hockey Program?
Oh geez, I'm not a good social media person. So I don't even know my social media account, to be honest with you, but I am on Instagram. We have Merrimack Women's Hockey on Twitter. We have Merrimack Women's Hockey on Instagram. And so if you go onto a search engine, you can find all of those things.
Thank you again, Coach Erin Hamlen, for your interview, and best luck in your future with Merrimack College as the head women's ice hockey coach.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Erin, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.